This is It's Not What You Know. Hello, I'm Miles Jupp. It's often said that it's not what you know, it's who you know. This is why first-time buyers are always delighted to hear their estate agent say, I don't have a clue about market rates or stamp duty, but I am a close family friend of both Phil and Kirsty. And why it's perfectly acceptable to say, well, I may have profited from some arms deals and have been involved in the occasional coup, but my mother was played by Meryl Streep to an Oscar-winning standard. On this show, what's important is not what, but who you know, and more importantly, how well you know them. Each of our three guests has chosen someone they know well to answer a series of questions. Could be a friend, could be a family member, could be someone they've been stalking, or vice versa if they're feeling brave. If our panellists correctly predict the answers their nominee gave, they get points. Get enough points, panellists, and you'll become the winner, which in turn legally obliges you to take home the Star Prize, which this week is an It's Not What You Know 3D magic eye picture. Look at it long enough, and it's a picture of my great showbiz friend Fiona Bruce feeling rather unwell following a long-haul coach journey. Please be aware that prolonged staring at this illustration may cause dizziness, nausea, and a terrible gnawing sense of one's own mortality. But on the plus side, it does come with a free ring binder. Well, with my opening monologue already creating an atmosphere somewhat reminiscent of a wake that is yet to start, please welcome tonight's dearly departed, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Wrigglesworth, Emma Freud, and Sean Keaveney. Let us turn first to Tom Wrigglesworth, stand-up comedian, TV presenter, and star of the Radio 4 series Tom Wrigglesworth's Open Letters, recently described by no less an organ than the Radio Times as a 28-minute show. Tom, which of your friends or family have you brought along this evening?
I have brought a man who I grew up with. It's probably unfair to say that he's autistic. But he makes Rain Man look like someone who's just good at counting.
Well, let's find out who you decided to go with.
Hello, I'm Richard. I'm an accountant from Sheffield, and I'm also Tom's dad.
Welcome, Richard. Next, we turn to Emma Freud, writer, broadcaster, loose ends regular, and script editor on some of the biggest British films of all time. And on a completely unrelated note, she's also the girlfriend of Richard Curtis. That's right, I said girlfriend. Emma Freud, OBE, lives in sin. And people wonder why we lost the empire. Emma, can you take us through your nominee selection process?
He's extraordinarily handsome. He's incredibly sweet, and he has me on something of a pedestal. Well, let's hear for ourselves. Emma, the person you've nominated is...
Hi, I'm Jake. I'm from Notting Hill in London, and Emma is my mum.
Jake Curtis, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, Sean Keaveney, musician, disc jockey, and in fact presenter of his very own daily breakfast show on digital radio station BBC Six Music, which sounds great. Who doesn't love cookery? BBC Six Music, are there any hot new bands you can recommend?
Ramparts, the Bully Stray Fops. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I was hoping they might all be military bands, to be honest, but... Now, can you tell us, Sean, did you find it tricky finding a suitable partner for this evening's chicanery?
I did a bit, yeah. I was going to ask my oldest son, but he's 3.5 and he can only talk about Batman. I was going to ask one of my rabid fans of my show, but of course they don't exist. So I instead plumped for essentially a man who knows where all the bodies are buried, as the aphorism goes.
Let's hear who it is.
Hi, I'm Paul. I'm a journalist. I'm from Manchester. And I'm Sean's younger brother.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the meet and greet stage out of the way. Were we all sales reps attending an out-of-town conference, it's fair to say that by now we'd have our name badges on and our knickers off. I am assured by those in the know that round one is an absolute doozy. It's called It's What They Know. We telephoned your nominees and asked them some questions to find out what they know about you. All you have to do is second guess how they answered. Tom Wrigglesworth, you are first in the crosshairs. We asked your father, Richard, who was best man at Tom's wedding?
Well, every time he would answer any question would have been prefixed by a massive rant before he ever got there.
Oh, really? That's congenital, is it?
Taking on very...
Where did you get married?
I got married in Las Vegas. So I think he would have said, "Oh, nobody." Well, Elvis.
Right. Well, let's
So
find
I think
out.
he would have said Elvis.
Richard Wrigglesworth, who was Tom's best man?
He didn't have one. So I don't think there was a best man. He could have been an Elvis Presley lookalike.
Very impressive. An Elvis Presley lookalike as your best man?
We tried to get an Elvis impersonator, but the budget, Miles, very expensive. And I'm a proud Yorkshireman, as you well know. And I said, have you got anything cheaper? And they said, well, we do a Shakin' Stevens.
Well, 2 extremely well-earned points. Now it's time to turn to Emma Freud. And Emma, it's absolutely lovely to have you with us. Actually, apropos of nothing, do you know, I've never been in a Richard Curtis film. Which I have to say I find extraordinary. It makes almost no sense whatsoever. I'm most people's idea of posh. I'm no one's idea of versatile. Anyway, I merely mentioned it in passing. On with the merriment. Emma...
You did, however, audition.
Let's have a look at a clip now.
I didn't realise that was an audition.
It was an audition.
I thought that was just a normal hot tub. Just me and Richard. Just. Oh, there's hands. Now, Emma, we asked your son Jake, what is the most embarrassing thing about your mum? What do you think he came up with?
Well, he might have mentioned the dancing. He might have mentioned the night that I came back at 6 o'clock in the morning. If he didn't mention that, can you forget I ever said that?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. He asked me if I ever drop him at school, which I don't. But I said, well, shall I? And he said, yes, but could you stay in the car park?
Well, all excellent possibilities. Time to face the truth, Emma. Jake?
She dances a lot, which is horrific.
2 points, Emma. She does. She dances a lot. This is why Emma only ever appears on camera from the shoulder up, so that you're not distracted by her legs, which, if you're listening at home, even as we speak, are flailing away like Michael Flatley on some hot sand. Finally, we turn to Sean Keaveney, a man who's literally come in from the digital wilderness to feel for the first time the warmth of human contact and the analogue signal. Sean, we asked your brother Paul, when is Sean's birthday? What do you think he said?
Well, this is difficult, isn't it? I'm praying to God that he got it right. Of course, the answer, as everybody knows, is the 14th of June. But he knows it's in the summer, so I'm guessing he's got the right month. I'm going for the 9th of June, because that's my friend Banksy's birthday. I often get them mixed up.
Sorry, your friend Banksy?
Unfortunately not the celebrated artist Banksy. He's a librarian and bass player. But he's much better company.
Yeah.
Easier to track down.
Right, let's find out. Paul?
It's either the 6th of June or the 12th of June. I think it's the 12th of June.
Either the 6th of June or the 12th of June.
Your own brother. I mean, I'm not estranged from him. I see him relatively regularly.
But you were right. You said he'd get the right month. I think you get 1 point for that. Poor old Paul, he thought it was the 6th or the 12th of June. 6th of June would have been in his head because it is, of course, the date on which both the YMCA and the NBA were founded. By the same chap, actually. Quite an ideas man. And 12th of June, I don't know why Paul plumped for that. Possibly he got you confused with the former Tory Prime Minister Anthony Eden, born that day in 1897. And there'll be a remorseless number of further facts like that in this show's currently hypothetical second series. It's back to you, Tom Wrigglesworth. Tom, we asked your dad, what is Tom's worst habit? What do you think he said?
We both know we're over the bedwetting.
It's been 3 years now.
That's well documented. He may have said smoking or nail biting, but he probably said antagonising him.
Oh, you antagonistic at home?
Well, yeah.
Well, let's see what your father has to say. Richard?
He's always been a bit unreliable. He tends to say he's coming, we expect him, we kill the fatted calf, and then he never turns up.
What?
That, I suspect, is not an answer made in jest, but one given by a man who has quite simply reached the end of his tether. That man has killed countless fatted calves, and they've all ended up in the leftovers bin. No points, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm appalled.
How so?
I'm not unreliable.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm on time.
They're probably expecting you for dinner right now, aren't they?
It's nice to despair in one's father and have a Freud reach over and touch.
It's over to Emma Freud. Emma, we asked your son, Jake, who is your mum's hero? What do you think he said?
David Tennant.
You think he said David Tennant?
Well, I know he said David Tennant. If he didn't say David Tennant, he hasn't been paying attention for 14 years. I love David Tennant. David Tennant once came to our house and my 8-year-old son came up to me and said, "Mum, David Tennant's in the sitting room. Make your move."
Let's see. Jake, who is mum's hero?
Bono. My dad. She likes him.
Either Bono or my dad, which is an extraordinary answer. I think those two men are frankly not comparable. I hate to think what Blackadder Goes Forth would have been like after a Bono rewrite. Everyone banging on about the rainforest before coming up with a cunning plan to avoid paying tax. No points, I'm sad to say. Finally, in this round, we come to Sean Keaveney. Sean, you used to be in a band.
Still am, actually.
Still are? What's the band
still
called?
Available for weddings and bar mitzvahs. We're called Mosque. Not even controversially, really, but came about because my uncle, Martin Ormerod, was also in the band, and we were practising in a pub. We were playing some darts, and he had MO on his side of the dartboard, I had SK on my side, and we thought, there's a name. We'll change it to the religious spelling, and we'll be megastars in 6 months. We're still waiting 25 years later.
I think that's pretty much how Islam started as well.
Never afraid to tackle the big topics, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Sean, so we asked your brother Paul, can you name 3 songs by Mosque?
Oh, no.
What do you think he came out with?
I mean, you could have chosen anything like Red Bricks Are Blue, Ferry Strike.
This Way to Mecca.
That was an unsuccessful B-side. I imagine that he got at least a couple. I imagine he probably got 2.
Got 2.
I think so.
OK, let's see, Paul.
Oh, God, I really should know this. Red Bricks, MASH. Oh, it's going to kill me for not being able to come up with a third one.
2
That's
out of
awful,
3.
isn't it?
But it gets you 2 points, you
Yes.
have to acknowledge. 2. There you go. You could have picked any number of songs from Mosque's wealth of studio album. He could have had More Better, Black Oranges, Lost Things, Downwind, Compass, or indeed any of their other marvellous songs about camping trips gone wrong. 2 points, so we've reached the end of round 1, and it's time to check the scores, which, as always on It's Not What You Know, are independently verified by some people that we know, in this case, the Football Association. Went out with them earlier this week, great bunch of lads. I got to tell them everything I like about football and was home by 8:30 for a literal early bath. And we can see that in joint second place are Emma and Tom, and way out in the front, it's Sean. So far, we've marvelled at how well the nominees know the panellists. Now let's see how well the panellists know the nominees. This time we start with Emma Freud. Emma, let's see how well you know your son, Jake Curtis. We asked Jake, how many tattoos do you have? What do you... No, just joking. We asked him, Jake, if you could have anything cooked for you by your mum, what would it be?
He would have said, well, he would have wanted to say the thing that I cook that he most likes, but it's got a slightly embarrassing name, so I think he wouldn't have wanted to say that on national radio. And I don't really want to say it either.
Right.
I know what he'd have said. He'd have said pasta packages with pesto.
Jake, what's the dish?
Favourite thing that she cooks would be pasta packages with pesto.
What does packages mean?
Pasta packages. Have you never had pasta? Yeah, it's like ravioli.
Ravioli. Ah,
Are you so posh that you don't know about pasta packages?
Just asking. Yes, by packages he means ravioli. And if you enjoyed that, and it's frankly unlikely that you didn't, there's plenty more where that came from in the It's Not What You Know book of culinary misnomers. Featuring all sorts of erroneous nomenclature perpetrated by relatives of the famous. Just wait till you hear what Matthew Pinsent's auntie calls biscuits. And now to Sean Keaveney, a man who has been lured onto Radio 4 purely so that the BBC can close down his usual radio station while he's out of the office. Sean, let's see how well you know your brother Paul. We asked him, Paul, for what story did you win the award for Northwest Scoop of the Year?
Northwest Scoop of the Year, for what story did he win that? This is awkward, isn't it? The tables are turned. I see the genius of the format now, finally. Well, I do remember that he did a story, a sort of expose on a sort of chap from Bolton who was arrested and prosecuted for making replicas of fine artworks. And they got busted, and I think he did the story on that, and I think that's what he won the gong for.
Let's have a listen, Paul.
Another 2 points.
It was a story on a fellow in Bolton who was basically a master forger and created a lot of antiquities in his shed.
Nicely done. 2 points there. A master forger living in Bolton. Clearly not capable of forging, for example, a train ticket.
So we've got a lovely town hall.
I've never been. It's probably lovely. It's literally just a joke about a thing. And now to Tom Wrigglesworth. We're going to find out how well you know your father, Richard. We asked him, Richard, what's your favourite drink?
Are you assuming alcoholic? That's what you mean when you say that, isn't it? I mean, quantity-wise, he probably consumes more tea than any man alive, which would suggest it's his favourite, but I think he'll probably... Oh, I know what he'd have done. He'd have gone on a massive rant, taking on board all of the real ale pubs in Sheffield and the South Yorkshire region before landing on some weird brew like Bishop's Finger or Nun's Kneecap or one of these weird independent ale places that knock out these 4.5%. The sort of thing that you think you're all right drinking, but 2 pints in, you've got your friend in a headlock. Bitter. He'll probably just generically say bitter.
Let's have a listen. Richard, what's your favourite drink?
Cask beer, 4.2 ABV, dark coloured, probably Thwaites or Camerons. Not 6 or 7 pints, just one at the end of the day does the job.
Not 6 or 7, just one at the end of the day that does the job. And I have to say, I would love to hear him talk about the subject when he's really got time to expand. All I can say is that if you find yourself stuck in a queue behind him at the bar, the only advice I can give you is either get out or make sure you bring something comfortable to sleep on. That's 2 points. So at the end of that round, it's time to have a look at the scores, which, as ever on It's Not What You Know, have been independently verified by some other people we know. The Devon Guild of Craftsmen. Went out with them early this week, let me tell you. Great bunch of lads. First rule of the Devon Guild of Craftsmen, you don't talk about the Devon Guild of Craftsmen. Second rule, if you are interested in wicker work, do book early. Those sessions are always absolutely chocker. And we can see that in joint second place still are Emma and Tom, and out in the lead it's Sean.
God.
Well, if round 1 was like a dry sherry and round 2 a full-bodied red, then round 3 marks the point in the show where we pour some supermarket spirits into a bath, drop in some Ribena and an old Satsuma and optimistically call it a punch. Round 3 is called Which Nominee? I will reveal the answer to a question. All you have to do is tell me which of the nominees gave that answer. Tom's dad, Richard, Emma's son, Jake, or Sean's brother, Paul. Sean, you're up first. Which of the nominees, Jake, Richard, or Paul, said their favourite film was Die Hard?
Right, I can't imagine for a moment that Richard's favourite film was Die Hard. Certainly not. I don't think my brother would have said that. That kind of full-throated action thriller featuring Bruce Willis in a vest might appeal to a young lad in his first flush of hormone looking for some excitement. I'm thinking it's perhaps Jake.
I promise you it won't be. He likes Debbie Does Dallas.
Well, let's find out.
Favourite film, Die Hard.
Yes, it was Emma's son, Jake, who was the Die Hard fan. Die Hard, or as it's known in the Curtis household, 12 terrorists and a mucky vest. 2 points there, well done. Next, Tom, which of our three nominees, your dad, Emma's son, or Sean's brother, said their favourite member of the royal family was Kate Middleton?
Kate Middleton.
Kate Middleton.
It wouldn't have been Richard, my dad.
No?
I think Kate Middleton's Paul.
Let's have a listen.
Kate Middleton.
It's Emma's son, Jake. No points, I'm afraid. Jake's favourite royal is Kate Middleton. Not my choice, I have to say. If pressed, I'd probably go for the 20th in line, which is, of course, the Duke of Gloucester. Little obscure and acquired taste. The connoisseur's royal. Another one coming up. This one's for you, Emma. Which of the nominees... Which of the nominees said the celebrity they'd most likely to meet was business secretary?
I've got a horrific feeling where this
I don't want to give anything away. Emma, which of the nominees said the celebrity they'd most like to meet was business secretary Vince Cable? Was it your son Jake, Sean's brother Paul, or was it Tom's dad Richard?
Can you give me a little while on this one? I would have thought the celebrity that Sean's brother Paul most wants to meet would be someone who plays for Bolton, wouldn't it? It would. Jake really just wants to meet Debbie from Dallas, and so I would imagine it might just be the weird stand-up comedian father person.
Let's check it out.
I'd like to speak to Vince Cable for 1 hour to ask him why he isn't kicking the crap out of the banks.
Yes,
I would just like to thank Emma for arriving at that answer through ruling out the others rather than jumping straight on. Dignity-saving move.
Might I suggest to Vince Cable that if he bumps into Richard Wrigglesworth in a pub and wants to avoid an awkward conversation, he simply says, Richard, I'd love to have a chat. I'll get at a table, you go to the bar, order whatever you fancy. That ought to run the clock down a little. Well, that brings us to the end of round 3, and let's have a check on those scores, which once again have been independently adjudicated and verified by some people we know very well, the Food Standards Agency. Went out with them this week, great bunch of lads, and may I say, not people who are afraid to get their hands dirty. And in third place is Tom, in second place Emma, and way out in front it's Sean. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was inevitable we'd get there at some point. This round is called The Big One. It's where we ask the nominees to ponder one of life's imponderable questions. Questions like, what now for the Euro? Is free will evidence or an excuse? And what is BT Open Zone? Why does it keep connecting to it? I don't want it. Anyway, this week's big question is... what shape are you thinking of? What shape are you thinking of? This question is a bit of a rip-off from that popular 1960s panel show of the same name. Everyone, of course, remembers the edition where it took Kingsley Amis, Millicent Martin and Reggie Cray the entire half hour to work out that Dame Edith Edmonds hadn't quite understood the format and was thinking of sausages. And how tragic to think that all of those tapes have been wiped. What shapes, though, are our nominees thinking of? Sean, your brother Paul, he's thinking of a shape. What is it?
He's thinking... You could take this too seriously, couldn't you? Which I was about to do. Oh, I think he's all the way oval. He's 110% oval, that man.
110% oval. Let's see if you're right.
Triangle.
It was the
I don't
triangle.
know him as well as I thought.
Yeah, serious knowledge gap there. Emma Freud, let's see if you can match/better that. Your son, Jake, favours which geometric form?
Well, he's 14. He's good at maths, and he's quite fond of symbols, and he's quite fond of the symbol for infinity, which is an 8 on its side, isn't it? So possibly that one.
What's the name of that symbol, Tom?
It's called an 8 on its side.
Thanks for yet more help. Jake, what's it going to be?
Square.
Square, no points, I'm afraid. And finally, Tom Wrigglesworth, the ball was in your court. This could be the question that makes or break or has largely no effect on tonight's result. Tom, think about your dear father. Pull together everything you know about him from all the years you've shared together. Filter it, distill it, filter it again. Pour me one small but perfectly formed answer. What shape is your dad thinking of?
Well, I imagine after a 20-minute rant, I'd like to say, or I'd like to think rather, that he said rhombus. Because I think he would take that as an almost challenge to say something a bit out there.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Let's hear for ourselves, Richard.
Circle.
It's a difficult round, that one. It is a brutally, brutally difficult round.
What was the point of that, Miles?
Oh, no, that's a slightly unfair question. What was the point of it?
Yeah.
I think Emma's asking as a panellist and a licence payer.
And it's the end of the show. The points have been, and I'll be frank about this, totted every which way. And just to make absolutely sure, as is the tradition on It's Not What You Know, we've sent the scores to be independently adjudicated and verified by some people that we know. And in this case, it's the Sealed Knot Civil War Reenactment Society. Went out with them early this week. I'd love to say a great bunch of lads, but honestly, not an evening I'm in any hurry to reenact. Quite serious people, and my cavalier attitude was ironically held against me. And the final scores show that in third place is Tom, in second place Emma, way out in front, the winner of the It's Not What You Know 3D Magic Eye picture of Fiona Bruce. It's Sean Keaveney. So thank you to our panellists, Tom Wrigglesworth and his dad Richard, Emma Freud and her son Jake, and Sean Keaveney and his brother Paul. And thanks to you for listening. I guess after all that, it just goes to show it's not what you know. Good night.
It's Not What You Know was hosted by Miles Jupp, but largely because his mother is in the same Zumba class as the head of Radio 4's sister. The chairman's script was written by Miles Jupp and James Kettle, but he only got the job because he told the producer he had an in with Richard Curtis. And the producer was Sam Michel, but only because he claims he can get got one for the next series.